Logan Paul walked into Saturday night's main event as a World Tag Team Champion and walked out with what appears to be a serious leg injury. Now breaking reports are claiming he may have quit WWE altogether. Let me catch you up. The 44th edition of Saturday night's main event came from Fort Wayne, Indiana, at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum. 5 matches, a packed card. And for most of the night, The Vision, Logan Paul, and Austin Theory were the main attraction. The WWE Universe in Fort Wayne was not happy to see Logan Paul, serenading him with boos and cheering loudly when Montez Ford frustrated him, with a pair of arm drag takedowns and a dropkick. That was the energy in the building. Logan Paul, the man who has turned crowd hatred into currency, was catching it from every corner of that arena. The WWE Men's World Tag Team Championships returned to Saturday night's main event for the first time since 1992, and the historic title defense ended in absolute chaos, as the Vision narrowly escaped with the championships intact against the Street Profits. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins entered the bout, determined to reclaim tag team gold, while Austin Theory and Logan Paul relied heavily on arrogance, distractions, and outside interference throughout the match. The match itself was a story of near falls and chaos. The champions were able to get back in control, and Paul hit a splash into the corner off the back of Theory, who suplexed Dawkins for a near fall. The Street Profits kept firing back. The finish was set up when the Street Profits appeared to have the match won. Dawkins hit Theory with the anointment, followed immediately by a frog splash from Ford. However, Heyman placed Theory's foot on the bottom rope to break the pinfall attempt. As Ford confronted Heyman on the floor, Paul struck him with a pair of brass knuckles. Dawkins responded by taking Paul out with a somersault senton, but Theory was able to cover the unconscious Ford inside the ring to retain the championship, so the Vision retained. The broadcast ended with the Vision standing tall, after Breaker executed post-match spears on both Dawkins and Ford. Logan Paul standing in the ring, titles still around his waist, Paul Heyman at ringside grinning. On paper, a dominant night. But that is not how the story ended. According to a new report from Rope Break, several WWE talents were reportedly banged up following Saturday night's main event, including WWE World Tag Team Champion Logan Paul, who appears to have suffered a leg injury during the title defense against the Street Profits. The report surfaced in the hours following the show, and wrestling media picked it up immediately. The report did not provide additional details regarding Logan Paul's condition, and more information is still being gathered. That is where we are right now. A champion with a leg injury, a title reign with no clear timeline, and a roster heading to Italy in 1 week for a major premium live event. Clash in Italy, with a massive question mark hanging over one of WWE's biggest names. Logan Paul and Sol Ruca were both reported injured coming out of Saturday night's main event. Paul suffered some kind of leg injury, the nature and severity of which are still being determined. And the reason that detail is critical is that Logan Paul is not just a name on a card. He is the fulcrum of one of WWE's most active factions. He is a World Tag Team Champion, and he is the kind of crossover star that WWE has built an entire narrative around, heading into the summer. So the question is, how did we get to a moment where Logan Paul is walking out of a TV event with a potentially significant leg injury? And what does it mean for everything he's built inside WWE over the last 4 years? To answer that, you have to go back to the beginning. After a couple of brief appearances in WWE in 2021, Logan Paul made his professional wrestling debut as The Miz's tag team partner in a tag team match at WrestleMania 38 in April 2022, which they won, and Paul received praise for his performance. What happened that night at WrestleMania sent shockwaves through the professional wrestling community, not because it was unexpected for a celebrity to appear at WWE's biggest event, but because Logan Paul was genuinely good. The athleticism, the ring awareness, the ability to command a crowd. It was all there, and it was undeniable. He then signed a contract with WWE in June that year, and later won the WWE United States Championship in November 2023, and the World Tag Team Championship in March 2026. That arc from celebrity guest to United States Champion to World Tag Team Champion is the kind of trajectory that even full-time professional wrestlers spend entire careers chasing and never reach. Although he officially signed with World Wrestling Entertainment in 2022, Logan Paul did not become a full-time wrestler until Monday Night Raw moved to Netflix in 2025. The Raw on Netflix move was a turning point. not just for the product as a whole, but for Logan Paul specifically. WWE needed faces that would drive mainstream eyeballs to a new streaming platform. Paul, with over 23 million YouTube subscribers and a prime energy drink empire, was built for that exact moment. He has over 23 million subscribers on his YouTube channel, Logan Paul Vlogs, and has ranked on the Forbes list for the highest paid YouTube creators in 2017, 2018, and 2021. In 2025, Logan Paul was featured in some high-profile matches, which were part of WWE's top shows such as Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, Toronto, WrestleMania 41, SummerSlam, and Clash in Paris. He tussled against the likes of the industry's top players, such as John Cena, AJ Styles, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and Randy Orton. That is a Hall of Fame murderer's row of opponents. The fact that Paul was being placed in headline programs against all of those names inside a single calendar year tells you everything about the level of trust WWE placed in him. Logan Paul says he believes professional wrestling is exactly where he is meant to be, following his new WWE contract. Earlier this year, Paul announced he had signed a new deal that will keep him with WWE on a more full-time basis for the next several years. And his own words about that signing were revealing. "I was born to wrestle. I truly believe that," Paul said. "Every single skill set that I've garnered throughout the entirety of my life has culminated into this insane balance of ability that is the WWE. From the showmanship to the storytelling to the improv and intuition that comes with being a wrestler to the physicality. That is not the language of a man with one foot out of the door. That is the language of a man who has fully committed to professional wrestling as his primary professional identity. A man who, per his own friend and podcast co-host, has walked away from boxing entirely to be in WWE. Absolutely not, was Mike Majlak's response to, "Do you think Logan Paul will ever box again? I think he's going to WWE and wrestle for the rest of his life. That's it." Yeah, his brother Jake Paul is the boxer. So the man told the world WWE was his life. He signed a long-term deal. He became a full-time performer. He won championships. And then, at Saturday night's main event in Fort Wayne, Indiana, a night that should have been another notch in the belt of an increasingly dominant title reign, he walks away with a leg injury, and nobody knows yet how bad it is. To understand why a Logan Paul injury at this specific moment is so disruptive to WWE, you have to understand the vision, what it is, what it has built, and exactly why Logan Paul is irreplaceable within it. The Vision is a professional wrestling stable consisting of Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, and Austin Theory. Managed by Paul Heyman, they are signed to WWE and perform on the Raw brand. Paul Heyman, the man who guided Brock Lesnar, the man who was the architect behind Roman Reigns' decade-long run, the man who turned CM Punk heel. Heyman, as the manager and mouthpiece of this faction, immediately signals that this is not a throwaway group. This is WWE's long-term investment. The group's name is a reference to former leader Seth Rollins' nickname, the Visionary. On April 19, 2025, at Night 1 of WrestleMania 41, Seth Rollins defeated CM Punk and Roman Reigns with the help of Paul Heyman, turning both men heel. In the following weeks, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed joined Rollins and Heyman, forming the Vision. By November 2025, Logan Paul had been folded in, and his entry into the group was not subtle. On the November 3 episode of Raw, Paul confronted new World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk before being caught in a brawl involving the Vision. Later that night, Punk and Jey Uso faced Breaker and Reed in a match that ended in a double countout. After the bout, the Vision attacked Uso. Paul then returned to the ring appearing to assist Punk, but instead struck Punk with his brass knuckles and handed them to Paul Heyman, revealing his alignment with the group. That brass knuckles reveal became Logan Paul's signature in the Vision, a character who drips arrogance, weaponizes chaos, and wins by any means necessary. And then came the tag team titles. On the March 30 episode of Raw, Paul and Theory defeated the Usos in a street fight to win the World Tag Team Championship after YouTuber IShowSpeed accidentally knocked out LA Knight with brass knuckles. Even the way they won the titles was very Logan Paul. Chaotic, controversial, and undeniable. while Paul, Theory, and Speed went on to lose a six-man tag team bout against the Usos and LA Knight at WrestleMania 42. Paul and Theory carried a nearly 2-month tag title reign into SNME, but the faction has not been without its own injury problems. Both Breakker and Reed suffered real-life injuries in February 2026, forcing them to take time off from wrestling. The Vision, which also includes an injured Bronson Reed, is under the tutelage of Heyman. That means at various points in 2026, the Vision has been operating without key members. Breakker made his return at WrestleMania 42. Reed's status remains uncertain. And now Logan Paul, the man holding tag team gold, is the one with the injury report. Austin Theory himself, in the days before Saturday night's main event, gave a clear-eyed assessment of exactly what Logan Paul brings to this partnership. Paul has the tools that any pro wrestler dreams of, the athletic prowess in the ring coupled with immense heat from the crowd, along with his skills on the mic. Theory told Fox News Digital that Paul's rise in the WWE has made it tougher for any outsider to come in and have success, suggesting the YouTube sensation has set the bar enormously high. And that same Theory gave perhaps the most telling quote about how the Vision sees itself heading into this title reign. The greatest tag team champions of the world, of the universe. You can't really compare that confidence, that swagger. That is the version of Logan Paul that WWE has spent years building. And right now, that version of Logan Paul is sitting somewhere with a leg injury, the severity of which no one can confirm, heading into a week that was supposed to be another step forward in the Vision's dominance. Here is something worth knowing about Logan Paul and WWE. This is not the first time the internet has had a full-scale conversation about whether he was done with wrestling, and understanding those previous moments is essential context for what is happening right now. WWE superstar Logan Paul created a big uproar on social media after sharing a cryptic video entitled, "I'm done with the WWE," on his X account on Thursday, March 5. The Maverick, one of the prominent faces of Monday Night Raw, and the central figure of Paul Heyman's faction, the Vision, seemed to indicate in the video that he would be leaving the wrestling world after his controversial elimination from the Elimination Chamber 2026. That Elimination Chamber moment was jarring. He looked unstoppable by knocking out LA Knight, Javon Evans, and Trick Williams, and seemed set to win. Then things fell apart as a masked man caused a scene, got security looking the other way. And suddenly, a second masked person slipped in and slammed Paul's face into the mat. That cheap shot set up Cody Rhodes, who pinned Paul, and killed his shot at main eventing WrestleMania. The video title, "I'm done with the WWE," sent the wrestling internet into a spiral. But the reality was more nuanced. In his latest vlog, Paul lets it go loose as he's furious at WWE management for not doing more to protect him. The video was called "I'm done with the WWE," which got people thinking he was actually leaving. But really, he just meant he's fed up with what he calls unfair treatment. Fans and pundits were able to find out very soon that the provocative headline was merely a promotional clickbait trick for his new vlog, which was actually a diary of his preparation for WrestleMania 42, and a rivalry with the returning Seth Rollins. So, Logan Paul does not just wrestle inside WWE. He uses WWE, its stories, its moments, its drama as raw material for content. His YouTube channel, his podcast, his social media, they all feed off the wrestling narrative. The "I'm done with the WWE" video is a perfect example of the Logan Paul operating model. Blur the line between real and scripted, bait the click, and then let the match do the rest of the talking. This is also not the first time that Paul has claimed that he plans to retire. It is a pattern, and that pattern matters enormously when you try to interpret what a title reign interruption by injury means. For the Logan Paul quits WWE conversation, a major reason behind his previous hiatus from WWE was that Logan and his fiancée, Nina Agdal, recently welcomed their first child, a daughter named Esme Agdal Paul. On his Impulsive podcast, Paul said that he is on paternity leave from WWE. That was a different kind of absence. Deliberate, personal, family-oriented, and yet even that sparked retirement speculation. Nonetheless, Logan Paul is one of the biggest attractions in WWE, having a global presence, which makes his homecoming inevitable. The company often brings him back for major feuds and programs. When it comes to big events and moments, the picture that emerges is of a performer who has created a meta-narrative around his own WWE career. One where departure is always in the conversation, always potentially real, always generating engagement, and always ultimately followed by a return that drives pay-per-view buys and streaming numbers. It is the Logan Paul content machine functioning at full capacity. But here is the difference between all those previous quit moments and what we are dealing with now. This time, the question is not about whether he wants to stay. It is about whether his leg will let him. Logan Paul and Sol Ruca were both reportedly injured. Coming out of Saturday night's main event, Paul suffered some kind of leg injury, the nature and severity of which are still being determined. Even less was known about Ruca's condition. That is the sum total of the hard information available right now, which in itself is telling. When WWE and wrestling media are slow to give specifics on an injury, it is usually because the medical picture is still being assembled, or because the severity is significant enough that nobody wants to get ahead of the assessment, and the timing could not be worse. Clash in Italy is an upcoming 2026 professional wrestling pay-per-view and live streaming event produced by WWE. The event will take place on Sunday, May 31st, 2026, at the Inalpi Arena in Turin, Italy. That is 1 week away. This marks WWE's first ever PPV and live streaming event held in Italy. This is not a throwaway show. This is a historic premium live event, the kind of international showcase that WWE spends months building toward. And the question of whether Logan Paul, one half of the World Tag Team Champions, can physically make it to Turin is now very much on the table. Logan Paul and Austin Theory successfully defended their WWE World Tag Team Championships, albeit in underhanded fashion, at Saturday night's main event. The titles are still with the Vision, but a tag team championship with one half potentially on the injury list is a creative and logistical problem that WWE's writers and producers now have to navigate at speed. Braun Breaker made his return from injury at WrestleMania by costing Rollins his match against Gunther. With Breaker and the rest of the Vision taking advantage of the numbers game on Rollins, the Street Profits made a shocking return on Raw by helping to even the odds. That sets up the broader summer arc, the Vision versus Seth Rollins and the Street Profits. Due to Rollins and the Street Profits, it has been difficult as of late to overcome the Vision. Rollins lost to Breaker at Backlash, giving the Vision more momentum. The story is built around the Vision staying on top. Logan Paul is a load-bearing wall in that structure. If the leg injury is serious, if it requires surgery, or even weeks of rehabilitation, WWE is not just losing a performer, they are losing the connective tissue between Austin Theory, Paul Heyman, and a championship program that has been months in the making. There is also the broader question of what a serious injury does to the Paul WWE financial relationship. He is locked with the Stamford-based promotion under a multi-year contract, which was renewed earlier this year. That contract renewal is significant. It signals that both sides have a long-term vision for what Logan Paul in WWE looks like. An injury does not break a contract, but it does break momentum, and in professional wrestling, momentum is everything. The Street Profits, who came so close on Saturday night, now sit in a holding pattern. During a tense backstage confrontation after the match, the Street Profits made it clear that they didn't trust Rollins, noting that the only reason for their involvement with the Vision was to get their hands on the tag team titles. If Logan Paul is sidelined, do those titles change hands without him? Does Austin Theory go into a solo program? Does the Vision use Paul's absence as a storyline? These are the questions that WWE's creative team is wargaming right now, in real time. And for Logan Paul himself, the man who told Sports Illustrated I was born to wrestle, who signed a multi-year deal, who walked away from boxing, who built his public persona around being the Maverick in the ring. A significant leg injury is the kind of thing that forces a reckoning. No amount of content strategy can work around. You cannot vlog your way through a torn ligament. You cannot clickbait your way through surgery. The injury report from Rope Break is the beginning of this story, not the end. The report does not mention the nature or severity of Logan Paul's leg injury, and additional details are still being gathered. As of right now, the full picture has not emerged. But what is already clear is that one of WWE's most carefully constructed acts. Logan Paul, World Tag Team Champion, full-time WWE superstar, face of the Vision, walked into Fort Wayne, Indiana, at the peak of his powers, retained his titles in characteristically chaotic fashion, and walked out with a question mark over everything that was supposed to come next. WWE has Clash in Italy in 6 days. The tag titles are on the line in the broader conversation. The summer program is in motion, and Logan Paul is in an examination room somewhere, waiting on answers that the rest of us are waiting on too.